All right. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, Christine.
Welcoming the amazing, wonderful, talented Kim Purdy back to the podcast. And welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always it's fun to see your face and to get to do something like this. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It kind of seems a trend with Kim and I. If we're together for 5 minutes, it ends up um, wanting to turn into something else because we click and our conversations click and there's so many things about us that we have found common interests in, whether that be yoga, meditation, deep shadow work, parenting, which is what we will be talking about today, which is kind of so many of the shoulds that many of us have around parenting.
Yeah. Just the other day, standing in my kitchen, I found myself both saying I should and I shouldn't, mentally to myself regarding my kids, which I know that's what we're getting into today with parenting. And there are so many. The shoulds are endless and the shouldn'ts are also endless. And I'm excited to dissect what that looks like and get some tools from you and some tips from you on how you navigated that. I know your kids are older than mine. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. And so from the time they were very young, in fact, the moment they were born, I found myself as a parent saying what I should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, I
So here
mean,
we go.
if, yeah, here we go. Whether you are a parent, whether you are a step parent, whether you are just reparenting yourself, this episode really does talk about all of those shoulds that really do start. I mean, when littles are born, I mean, we all know the library of books that you could be reading while pregnant, when the babies are born. Those are full of all the shoulds. And really, so many of the shouldn'ts that go along with that, and how that can sometimes, in my opinion, hinder our own internal understanding and knowing as parents already. And that's where the reparenting of ourselves can come in. So even if you're listening today and you don't have kids, but you are interested in what we mean by reparenting yourself, stay tuned.
Here we go. Here we go. I know I can
Here
think
we
of,
go.
I don't know how quickly you want to jump into this, but I can think of two big shoulds that I find myself almost on the daily as a parent saying to myself. And I love that you said even reparenting because it does go deep into that layer of reparenting myself as, a 44-year-old woman looking back on these two things, which maybe I just put it right out there so we can get right into it. But the one that comes up for me most often is I should be more patient,
Hmm.
more patient with myself. I should be more patient with my children. And the second one is I should be more present. So it's like two P's for me and presence for me because what my one of the reparenting things that I've had to work on for myself as an individual is uh being okay sticking around, and being present. And when I say sticking around, I mean emotionally, not distracting
Hmm.
myself with whether it's TV or uh alcohol or whatever it may be, but coming up with the distractions, keeping myself really busy, like I need to clean, and that becomes a distraction for me of being present when I'm shutting all over myself.
So thank you for that. And whenever we say the shoulds, what we don't want to do, or what I resist doing, especially on the podcast, is to defend why we feel that way. Meaning, I
Mm,
should be more patient, and then we're going to talk about all the reasons why I feel impatient. So
yeah.
when we understand that we want to look at the impatience, but we don't really want to defend it, right? Or we want to look at the lack of presence and go, the opposite of should is, meaning When we're talking now, we're talking about the isness of your affiliation, association, or connection to patience and
Mm.
presence. It's rather than saying, oh, why do you think you feel impatient? Now we're going to go into the story that defends the thing that we don't want to be there. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
instead, we say, let's look at the isness of these two P's when it comes to Kim that is being projected onto parenting. So this is where you kind
Interesting.
of go, oh, so I have a relationship to patience and I have a relationship to presence that are, well, I would ask, what are those relationships? I mean, you kind of
Uh,
just told me when you said
yeah, I think it's
when I
judgment.
avoid, yeah. Okay, keep
It's
going.
judgment of myself where I look at the should of wanting, I should be more patient. It's like, ugh, then I go through a cycle in my mind where I start judging myself, and then I don't want to be in a place of judgment. And so then it turns into distraction of, oh,
Okay,
the
so
way
if
I'm
we
going to
see,
deal with this is through distraction.
so the should comes, the shame comes, the distraction comes, and then that's kind of creates the loop.
Hmm.
So if we say, if we just said patience, we would say, I have a should around patience because when I am patient, it's difficult. I can't do it. I'm not interested. Like what's there when patience is suggested?
You know, that's an interesting question because I do think overall I'm a pretty patient person. And I think to a certain degree you have to be um, uh, having kids, right? There's an understanding there for your child. But when it gets overwhelming, or when it's usually for me with my kids, it's during transitions or bedtime where they're tired, or right before dinner time. For example, here's a really good one. Right before dinner's ready, they're smelling the food being cooked. And so they're starving and they go in the kitchen, they want to eat all the snacks. And so obviously in my head I'm like, just be patient, but no. And this is something that I know we'll get into here, and this might be a good time as well, is the boundary of, it is, you're not going to have a snack. I understand you're hungry, dinner's going to be ready in 5 minutes, so the boundary is no snacks right now. But when my patience is being tested and I'm multitasking and I'm making dinner and this, sometimes as a parent, I just, whatever, have a snack. I kind of give up because it's almost too much of a fight to put up that boundary. And then that turns into more shoulds later on where I think, oh, I should have not let them eat that snack because now they're not hungry for dinner.
And then here we go. It just continues, continues, continues.
Yeah.
So the I'm kind of the less is more parenting. And the less is more means that there's a structure around a certain thing that happens every day, like dinner, and there's absolutely no guesswork. Now, if there has been guesswork in the past, they're in the kitchen whining for the snack, right? And that's not saying that you've done anything wrong. That's not saying, it just says sometimes I get the snack, sometimes I don't get the snack. So that means that there's a guesswork around it. And
Hmm.
then when we add emotional fuel to it, it's adding emotional fuel to their, we'll say, hunger or their antsiness. This is very difficult in the beginning to implement. When I say less is more, it means when we stay calm in our nervous system, when the beginning and the middle and the end of what happens before dinner with snacks is consistent every single time, I do not get disrupted. I stay completely calm. They don't come in the kitchen. And if there's guesswork around what you can and can't do, what you can and can't have, if there's any guesswork in 6 years and in 9 years, if there's been any guesswork around it, that means everything's a maybe. And if everything's
Yeah.
a maybe, then who's in control of that? The
Hmm.
kids, right? This isn't about discipline and this isn't about punishment. This is about consistency, trust, and the beginning, middle, and end of what happens every single night at dinner time.
Yeah.
without the anger and the frustration. That's the hard part because you said patience and presence. Those are shoulds that belong to you that say, I have somehow a resistance to patience and presence as Kim, and it's
Hmm.
really triggered at dinner time, snack time, whatever, with the kids. So the kids become the canvas for those two things. So that's your reparenting of inner self or what gets projected onto dinner time with the kids. Does that
Yeah,
make
I think
sense?
it's dinner time, and I also think it's bedtime now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hearing us talk about this. And it's usually it's when I'm having a moment of exhaustion because, I mean, in our culture, it used to be that we'd say, "Oh, I'll put on my resume, I'm great at multitasking." And now I'm like, no, I need to be focused on one thing. But when you have kids, staying focused on that one thing gets really challenging because you have in the background, it's not like I'm the single Kim where I could just make myself dinner, get it done, sit down, eat it, and enjoy every bite. It's now, like anybody that has kids, especially young kids like around my age, they know that their kids are done with dinner in a couple minutes, they don't sit for that long. However, I will say, my wife Jackie and I have been able to implement a structure around dinner time. So our kids know now we sit down, we go through highs and lows of our day of like, what happened during your day that was the best thing. And sometimes there's multiple things. And were there any lows? And if so, what were those? And so they know that that's part of our ritual for dinner and they sit there for it and they're not getting up until we've gone through every single person everybody's been able to speak.
So you can see there that that's consistent, that's deliberate, it's child focused, not child led, but child focused,
Hmm.
and it serves everybody.
Yeah.
When we take that recipe for smelling the food and wanting to be in the kitchen and having the snacks, what you said earlier was very interesting. You said the word transitions. And if patience and presence are deeper, we'll say, points to recognize for yourself, I would ask you, do you have a difficulty transitioning?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is just even like packing for a trip, like going on vacation. I it feels almost like it's a focus thing where I feel like before I can pack my clothes to go on a trip, the house needs to be clean, dishes need to be done. And so I feel like there's all these things that add up in my mind that I'm like, I will pack once I get the list of things done over here. But then within that time, I get distracted, whether it's from work or from the kids or this or that. So I definitely struggle with transitions myself, and I think most kids do. And if perhaps we're not taught those the tools that can help at a very young age, then it's something that we have to figure out in our adult life. So yeah, you're shining the light on me right now, Christine.
Well, I often say that kids don't do what we say, right? Kids do what we
Yeah.
do. And they're energy mappers, not
Mhm.
word mappers. They're energy mappers. And so they are telepathically feeling our when we are at ease and when we are
Mhm.
disrupted. And when do you think that moms might be most susceptible to give in? When they're at ease or when they're disrupted?
No, and they're disruptive. A little backstory for me is I'm the youngest of seven kids. So my mom was very distracted. Um, not only was she raising seven kids, and I was, part of all of that, but she was, very involved in a lot of community activities as well. And so I think I mean, it's just something I learned at a young age. And it's not good or bad. It's just that was my environment growing up. And so that's what I was accustomed to and felt like that was the norm. Now I feel like that's the norm as an adult. And this is where, kind of um, breaking some of those patterns that are probably generational, I'm sure, is now I've got this job that I'm really seeking to do, which is become the best version of myself, not just for me, but also for my family, for my wife and my kids
Hmm.
and their
So,
kids.
yes, and this is generational healing, right? We love the word generational trauma. How about generational healing? For my great, 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 great grandbabies, that in the kitchen on a Thursday night, I'm planting a seed that will blossom in a little human I'll never meet, but they'll
Hmm.
be of me. I mean, that's called legacy. That's true legacy, is when we understand that difficulty in transitioning makes perfect sense for the youngest of seven, and but we don't use it to define why we're that way. We use it as the catalyst to heal. That says, yeah, the opposite
Yeah.
of um, distracted would be present. And so just taking
Mhm.
that and understanding that my relationship to presence was fractured since I was young. And it framed this amazing, multi talented, awesome mom that, yes, I can multitask when I need to. And I think I'm ready to anchor into presence. Your kids feel your body in presence or in distraction. And
Mhm.
when you are distracted or agitated, there's the crack, there's the way in, there's the snack before dinner. And I don't suggest that's manipulation. I think every single child is micro scanning every environment to go like, what works in here, what works in here, what works in here.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's why when many kids start working with me, which I don't work with many kids one on one, but they don't necessarily they don't really like me because I'm very present and I'm very consistent. And that feels kind of threatening to a household that maybe I get a snack before dinner, you know. Now with Christine, there's never a snack, but it's not a punishment. It's just the way that there's just a system here. Um,
Well, that's what's really interesting because, and my brain right now is going like this because because you're a parent, and if you go back to when your kids were in elementary school, and um, there's this idea that the kids hold things together when they're in an environment that they're not. Um, it's not their home environment. Like at school, when we were to talk to our kids' teachers, they're like, they're so well behaved. They listen, they clean up after themselves. And, my wife and I would look at each other, are you talking about our kids? Because that's not what's happening at home. Or we'd pick them up from school and, they held it together and were so well behaved at school that when they got to us, they would relax and melt down and tears would come out.
mm,
So is it this, are they holding it together? Like when they go to my sister's house, she's like, they're great. When they go to Auntie, Tia's house, they're great. Like, school, they're great, we get all this positive feedback, and then in our home, that's where they're testing the limits a little bit more, I think. And so it's that breaking us down as parents. Like, talk about the shoulds, like, I should be grateful, I should want them to hang all over me and touch me, but right now, like, God, sometimes I'm like, can you just go back to school for a little bit? I'm being completely honest here, it's
right, right, right.
challenging.
Yeah, I think in that sense, it's where do I get to be the most me? Where am I the most accepted? And so the beauty of that is at home.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean what I'm suggesting in the structures um, are safety for them so that they don't subconsciously believe that they're in control of your home.
Mhm.
They already know consciously they are not in control of their classroom, right?
Yeah.
They know that because there's a teacher in there trying and needing to teach 35 kids. So there
Yeah.
has to be rules, there has to be protocol, there has to be repercussions for bad behavior. There's somebody down the hall that can talk to you if you can't sit still in here. They don't want to go down the hall. So they know that
Mhm.
there are things that are. So the great thing is that they come home and they can really just be who they are. And we don't want to say like, oh, and we want to make sure you know that you're not in control here, little one.
Yeah.
It's more about their safety. A 9-year-old doesn't have the capacity to be in control of a home or a little brother
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
her mom's. And so that's where the regulated, calm, consistent, loving, with boundary parenting, when you can get on that trajectory, they can be themselves at home. And then they not kind of, then you notice the desire to help. So there's not
Hmm.
necessarily chores. It's because they understand that they're a part of the home. It's not that I'm doing chores because I want the thing. It's that everybody contributes because everybody contributes. And we don't have to have this big conversation like, well, everybody contributes because this is a part of the house and you have to do. There's not a lot of that. It's just a natural ripple effect when they get to be themselves and they know that mommy needs time as well. And this is, um, you might say something like, who's feeling overwhelmed right now? Rather than, mommy's feeling overwhelmed and it's because of you and I need a break or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Who might be feeling overwhelmed right now? And we let
Yeah.
them do the work. Um, who's being disrespectful right now? And we let them equate, who's not listening right now. Rather than the pointing and the accusatory,
Mm.
you're not
Ask
listening.
it.
You're, yes.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
question.
yeah, because even in the case of who's feeling overwhelmed right now, it would be mom.
Hmm.
Then that might go, mommy, what does overwhelmed mean? Now we're having a conversation. Now we're able to give an example. Now we're able to talk about feelings.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're expecting a 5-year-old to understand what disrespectful means, or it just feels
Hmm.
wrong, but they don't really have those contexts. Remember that
Yeah.
feeling wheel? They know mad,
Yeah.
they know sad, they know angry, they know, but the deeper nuance, when we ask questions about feelings, it gives them a, and then we don't even require an answer. Like say you're standing in the kitchen and making dinner, it says, who's not listening right now?
Hmm.
And then you just keep making dinner.
Yeah.
It's less about yelling. I genuinely believe once we're yelling as parents, we're just going to have to try the next time, because this time
Yeah.
during the yelling one, we're not,
Didn't
it's
work.
not,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
totally okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do see ways in which we have implemented, when they get home from school, we give them like a snack plate, and it's when we are prepared as parents with a healthy snack plate, they're not diving for the things that really don't have much nutritional value. But they're coming in and they know that their bodies are hungry, because they were distracted at school and they probably didn't eat as much because they were playing with their foot friends and, recess and all of that. So, um, there have been ways that we've been able to integrate that. And then as long as they nutritiously feel satisfied, then usually it doesn't become a big issue. It's just the planning and it's having all those little things, which, you as a parent, you just keep getting better and better at. And then all of a sudden they're young adults and they're doing it for themselves.
Well, and that's where I really feel like, giving kids all of the information and letting them ask questions if they don't understand.
Hmm.
So a healthy snack would be, would we say like peanut butter and celery or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would be another healthy snack?
We usually do cut up cucumbers, sliced apples, like roll up a couple slices of turkey. They enjoy that, or some crackers with peanut butter on it.
Hmm.
Those are kind of some of our go-tos.
Is that something that you make for them?
Um, So one of our kids is a little bit more motivated with wanting to help out and like actually cook and put things together. It's motivating the other one a little bit more to help out and to prepare it. But I will say the other one there have been moments where all of a sudden just there's a surprise and she's off in the kitchen making something herself that's really creative and healthy. So
So
yeah,
the,
just doing that more
yes.
regularly.
Yeah, and so it's like the beginning, middle, and end says that we're going to spend a lot of time with presence and patience, um, mapping out snacks. That's, so it says that we have these three things that will always be available in the refrigerator when you get home. These are the options for snacks. You want them? They're in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they
I
do.
know at
They
five
have
and at
a
nine. Sorry, go ahead.
even the drawer that we have that's filled with snacks that they would, sometimes go and get into when they smell dinner cooking. They're healthy snacks. They're not awful snacks. It's just so you don't need a snack before you're going to eat dinner because we're about ready to have a meal. So when it comes to them actually, accessing snacks, they are able to do it themselves. And even when we have a sitter come over, we say the same thing. Here's the snack drawer. Here's this. They know how to get stuff out of the fridge. They've got frozen yogurt, like, just regular non-fat yogurt or what have you, sticks that we freeze. They can go
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
that from the freezer, so it feels like a treat, but it's it's nutritious, things like that. So we've come up with good ways to integrate that. But
Yeah,
I
I think
guess,
when we're, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, just like thinking about the shoulds, even a little bit more around like bedtime routine, because I'm thinking back to last night putting them down. With kids, and this is something I know that we've talked a little bit about before, every child is different and their needs are different, and how they communicate their needs come across differently. But, um, one of our kids has a little bit more of the, uh, I'm thinking of attachment styles, the anxious attachment, where like, stay in here until I fall asleep, saying, and so oftentimes what I find myself as a parent doing is getting to a point where I'm like, ugh, like I just need to, I want her to feel safe, but I just need to cut this off because I have stuff to do. I have laundry to fold. I'm tired. I need to start relaxing, And so that's oftentimes when it gets into the shoulds around bedtime, on like, I should be patient. I should be present, and at that time of night, I'm like, I have no patience and I'm tired and I don't want to be present. I want to go read my book and check out myself.
So this is probably where my input can become a little less favorable for some Western parents. I think there's a lot of definitions, like attachment styles and things like that. And in my opinion, like ADHD and acronyms, I think they can and are largely quite dangerous. Because what ends up happening is that we read a style, we attach to it, we don't like it, and but that's the way it is, and now we have to work around it. So now there's this
Mm,
idea in my head that if I trust that she can regulate her nervous system on her own, giving her confidence and giving her self-awareness, that somehow I'm abandoning her and that I'm leaving her afraid in her room. So to me, what she's longing for, if we're dragging or holding onto your leg or don't want you to leave, we're basically saying, I don't trust myself when you're gone, or I don't trust the environment when you're gone, or I'm just using this whole thing so that you'll stay. None of those is conducive with strong, helpful, self-aware, confident humans. So when we read something that says attention to deficit, attachment style, these things, and then we coddle that, I I'm a little more old school in saying I don't believe that's helping. And what it's doing is it's creating a should in you that you're emotionally abandoning her. You're not emotionally
mm,
abandoning her. When we say, you've got this, let's look around the room. There's nothing threatening in here. And we can do that in little increments. If she's literally melting down, we're not locking the door. It doesn't
yeah.
sound in action, it's not as harsh as it may sound, but I definitely believe fully and have seen that the coddling of things, and when I say coddling, it's basically saying this is what we don't want, but we're going to really massage and work around the thing that we don't want. And rather than saying, I believe in you, Let's check in with your nervous system. And this becomes not just bedtime, not just snack time. This becomes a dialogue in the family at all times.
Mm,
In the morning, how are we feeling? How's our nervous system? And we're not using it as like, well, my stomach hurts, so I can't go to school. We're not using it in that way. We're using it in a way that empowers, that
mhm,
trusts, and that says, you got this. Because otherwise, they're on to the thing that might be a maybe. Sometimes mommy stays, sometimes she goes and reads her book. Sometimes she stays for 5 minutes, sometimes she stays for 7 minutes. It's a lot of guessing. And
mm.
as soon as there's a guess, there's a crack in the system, and there's a chance she might sleep with me tonight. It's not, and I'm not against any of these parenting styles. I'm just saying for me and my kids,
Yeah.
building that kind of not staunch self sufficiency that they don't need me, but
Hmm.
that they really understand how to self soothe and understand that there is no threat in our home right now.
Hmm.
Certainly not one that is going to keep you from going to sleep.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like would your recommendation be baby steps then? Because we've dealt with this for a long time and it sometimes is really great, goes to bed very easily. Sometimes that's with the help of melatonin,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, your nervous system's really struggling to calm down at night and to sleep. And so here's like a little tiny bit of a melatonin gummy and then bedtime's super easy, but I don't want to rely on that. And so I hear what you're saying is it's checking in even throughout the day, like how are you feeling, and finding ways to empower our children, and remind them that they're brave and they're courageous and that they're completely safe, especially in our home. There's no threat, there's no fear. Um, and then even with doing those things, if there still is a real threat and fear to the child's nervous system, just keep that consistency.
Yeah, we'll keep with these three words: patience, presence, and consistency.
Mm,
So the opposite of that would be um, impatient, inconsistent, and scattered. If there's any part of our home life that has been impatient, scattered, and inconsistent, this new paradigm, which isn't about bedtime, it's not about snacks, it's about our life as a family,
lifestyle.
starts if we it's like we just put a puzzle together as a family, and now Christine is suggesting going and throwing that puzzle over that way. And so that means that it is going to feel like we're taking something away. It is going to feel a little bit different, and it is going to feel challenging in the beginning. The, you know, and we're not going to get there on one podcast, right? But it says, are we ready to reframe patience, presence, and consistency as the foundational pillars of our family? And if we are, this next 90 days is going to be a little uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Personally, as moms, definitely as kids. And then, I mean, it's about that 90 days that you're like, whoa, nobody came in here and yelled for a snack at dinner. Why? Because we have the beginning, middle, and an end that's consistent. Mom's nervous system was patient and calm every single time. She just reiterated exactly what she said yesterday. I'm not explaining. I'm clarifying. So that doesn't mean we're just going to start this without any kind of conversation. We would say, so there's a lot of the things that that we're used to. We're going to start to refine a little bit for safety, consistency, patience, and presence in our family. We say these things,
Hmm.
and they're all going to be for the best and betterment of all of us, and they're going to be a little tough in the beginning.
Okay,
Then,
so it's a 90-day plan.
well, and just like when you work with me and we understand that our own inner parenting, when we realize, let's just say, um, my impatience, you start to realize that it's not just at certain times, it's like almost all over everything. If I were working with you and you said, impatience is a thing, I would say, like, I kind of feel a sense of urgency when there's no urgency. I kind of feel like I got to get to something faster, even though I'm not even in a rush. and so
Mm.
if that's something that you have navigated through for 44 years, that's where we're starting to say, where is it that I'm going, well, I can't be patient here. I mean, look at all of this stuff that I have to do. Um, so it's really,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big flip. It's not like we're going to have a couple chats and we're going to figure out how to navigate around dinner and snacks and bedtime. It's a
Basically,
whole,
yeah, you're flipping this like inside out. And what I'm seeing is this is like, it starts with me versus I'm like my kids. Like I'm seeing I, I've got all these shoulds around parenting, but in order to navigate through this and come up with, tools that are really going to help support my family dynamic, in the healthy, loving lifestyle that we have, but like even support that even more is to continue to go back to that inside job of working on myself. Turn myself inside out. Oh,
well, yeah, I'm
okay.
just saying, do I feel patient or impatient without any judgment? It's just the isness. Do I feel present or scattered? Does this feel consistent or inconsistent? Remember, who's feeling overwhelmed? These are just questions lead to curiosity, and curiosity means we're shaping. It doesn't mean that because I was the youngest of seven, impatience has defined me. We're saying it has shaped me, and now
Hmm.
I'm using that to reshape into deliberate presence. If I've learned and my brain has navigated through scattered energy, multitasking my whole life, is presence going to feel calm and welcoming?
No.
It's going to feel like a threat.
No. Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, it completely makes sense. Oftentimes, and this is another thing that we do is compare, like, we compare my wife's family with my family and my upbringing. And we like comparison is the thief of joy, of course, but to a certain degree, it's helping us understand our own patterns, which I think is really great. And what you kind of hit the nail on the head with a moment ago is talking about that feeling of like, I need to get somewhere, even if I really don't. And that's the family that I was raised in. It was like constantly the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And so even at family holiday dinners, we're cleaning up before we've even like taken the last bite, It's like, what is happening here? We're moving so quickly just to go through the motions instead of being present.
Very relatable. Very relatable. And we can see it there. And rather than shoulding it, when you go, um, it shouldn't be that way, from that lens, when you look at the holiday and you go, no, that it is that way. So we don't need to go into the big reasons of why it's that way. And it's because of mom and it's because of seven kids and it's all of that. That's defending the limitation. You go, the current, is it in alignment with the holiday that I long for? And if the answer is no, then it's I'm ready to participate in my part of bringing a holiday into
Mm.
reality that really feels a little bit awkward in the beginning because now I'm just going to lay on the sofa and watch Twilight Zone like I've always wanted to. I feel like I have to do the dishes. Um, the arc of that is not easy. And that's the main thing I want to remind everyone, parents, individuals, is that when you're longing for patience, you have to understand that the impatience is an autopilot. So navigating into patience is not easy. It will trigger laziness, it will trigger irresponsible, it will trigger boredom, all of the things that um, really are the false choice of patience. You're longing for the thing that you're resisting because you're subconsciously used to the impatience.
Yeah.
You could add in any one of our wounds, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you for saying and pointing that you kind of tied that back in very clearly from the beginning where you literally caught me in defending my limitation. I told you what my shoulds were. I should be more patient. I should be more. present. And then I said, but these are the reasons why I'm not. So I defended that right away. And now I'm like, okay, I see it. And I see it. We just like beautifully went through this whole journey with talking about my kids, my family, and then even deeper back into the way that I was raised and, my inner child as well. So thank you so much for tying that all together and showing me so clearly how yeah. So after defending, it's I can't remember the word that you use, but you just said it. Um, Instead of defending
Well, we look at the isness. Like, let me
the
tell you why
isness,
I've
what
been
is?
impatient versus saying I'm feeling impatient, right? If we look at our feelings as objects, this is very untethered soul lesson one. If we're looking at our feelings as an object and we say, I feel impatience, as soon as we tell the story of why it's there, it not only doesn't go away, it becomes, we've just defined it and defended it. And we've projected it onto our kids or our past or whatever. If we say, is this in alignment, this impatience, is this in alignment with how I'd like to feel? And at the beginning of the call, you identified, no, that's not how I'd like to feel. I'd like to work on feeling more patient. So in that moment, if we're just sit with the feeling of the vibration that we don't want. Don't tell me why it's there. Don't tell me why it has to be there. And please don't tell me who's responsible for the feeling. Like the guy who's in traffic in front of me, that be writing a check, whatever it is that you think is making you feel that way. We understand that impatience was something that you navigated consistently as a child, and your identity formed around an environment that had impatience in it.
Mhm, mhm,
That's quote unquote why you feel that way. The current
mhm,
iteration on a Tuesday is just the projection. Is this how I want to feel and vibrate right now? Sit with the feeling, bring equanimity to it. This is just here right now. Don't put a story on it. Breathe into it. I am ready to cultivate patience and feel and watch it dissipate. I promise. The second that you put a story on it, the second that you put a face on it, the second that you blame it, it will not only get bigger, it will start to become an anxiety attack. Anxiety is your body's way of saying right now is the perfect time to establish patience. You think, and Western society would tell you, it's actually because I got to get to that meeting and no, it's not. Your body's never trying to mess with you. Your body's telling you right now would be the perfect opportunity to artfully, creatively anchor in presence. It's not telling you, look at your environment and blame it for why you feel so impatient
yeah.
or scattered. I hope that makes sense. It's very
It does.
simple,
It
but
does.
it's not easy.
And you gave the plug of the untethered soul. The book, The Untethered Soul, is something I'm actually reading right now. I'm
Oh,
halfway through it, and perfect timing because yeah, it's all coming together and clicking. And I recommend that book to anybody that's looking for a good
mhm.
read.
Well, think about untethering yourself from the story that defines the thing you don't want. Untether yourself from the story that defines the thing you don't want. If you don't
Mhm.
untether from it, it will become the excuse for staying that way.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when the world gets a little harsh.
Yeah.
Because
Who
it's like,
wants
oh, so
that
it's all my
story?
fault.
Yeah.
No, it's not your fault, but it
Uh,
is yours.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it does all
Yep.
start with us. And then the kid part, that really becomes just an expression of your own anchored presence,
Hmm.
of your own anchored consistency. That's trust. And that goes like, oh, we get dinner when we get dinner. And it's not like we have to wait for it. No, it's just like, oh, I trust that this is the thing because it's always been the thing. Now, that 90 days of generating, sometimes you get a snack, sometimes you don't, to this is how we always do it. It's going to be a little um, uncomfortable. And you know
All
what?
right.
Sometimes we get a banana split for dinner because life is cool.
Well, I will report back to you on how it all goes.
Yes, I'm sure we all will. And I can't wait for our next chat. Um, It's always enlightening, and I could talk to you for 5 hours.
Same. I know we're like, let's talk for 5 minutes. And then an hour later, we're like, oops.
Right.
I love it. Well, thank you, Christine. Always an honor. And I look forward to our next one.
All right. Love you, honey.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.